There's a lot of stuff in the local newspapers about our lagoon out here and it being polluted, and then there's problems with railways and new railways that are coming. So I'm sitting there doing some research today, and look what I found out. That the Seaboard Airline Railroad was one of the very first railroads down here, and it started the Indiantown Telephone Company.
Wow.
Did you know that? I didn't know that, right? So somehow, Jeff Leslie is responsible for all aboard Florida. That's the only way I examined this as many ways as I could have, and that's the only way that it came out.
We have
Right,
free
sir?
rotten tomatoes.
Everybody knows Jeff Leslie, right? Because he went to FAU. He's the only, in Florida, he's the only certified public accountant with a smile, a great handshake, and he's always selling you something. If you do not have broadband at this moment in every room in your house, including all the bathrooms, we're going to fix it right now. Jeff Leslie.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Arthur. I guess I started out as a CPA. I actually worked for some national CPA firms. That was actually how I got my start, until I figured out that I wasn't a very good CPA type of person. And I kept wondering, like, man, I'm putting all these hours, I really don't enjoy this, you know. And it just wasn't my thing. And so somehow I ended up migrating. And he's right, our company goes way back, probably at least 80 years, you know, that the telephone company, we're actually we actually are the same thing as AT&T is the way we started, just as a little guy that had the service area of Western Martin County. And AT&T was evidently better at the bargaining table because they got the whole coast of Florida, you know. So anyway, but that's kind of how it started. And I actually bought the company about 4 years ago. I had been the CEO for the family that had owned everything, and the owner had passed away. And as part of that, he probably had about 20 different businesses, and so I liquidated all of them except for I purchased the telephone company and the water and sewer company. Now, not really having very much, you know, one of my things, I guess, is that I've never really had any money to do anything with, but you know, I've always seemed to be able to figure out. You know, I always try to sit down and assess, you know, what are my resources, what are my assets, you know, what do I have, why would somebody deal with me, or that kind of, you know, whatever, what could I do to make something happen? And you know, sometimes you just got to be really creative, but I was able to work a way to be able to purchase the company at that time, and probably the reason I was able to purchase it is because it was probably worth about negative millions, okay, at the time, and it was a matter of, well, you know, they owed me a whole bunch of money type of thing. And it's like, you know, good luck getting your money, you know, so you better just take this dog over here and see what you can do with it, you know. And so we kind of started out at a tough time, you know, in tough times like that, and we had to figure out, well, you know, how am I, you know, it's kind of interesting when you get hit with the idea, well, you know, I really don't have an alternative here. I mean, it's either we make this thing go, you know, which is probably every small business, or else it's over. You know, I mean, we just got to figure this out. And so I did that, and I guess you know, we're talking about alternative financing, and I guess the first, my best go-to, you know, deal was prayer. You know, so that was the one that helped me first and foremost, I guess. And but when we took over the company and we got started, we tried to figure out, well, how are we going to dig out this hole? We were really in bad shape. We probably had less than 6 months to go at that particular time, because the previous owners had really never invested in the company, and they were kind of like, you know, how much money can I get out of the company, and there just wasn't much left. And so we tried to just take stock. First thing was taking stock of what we're doing, and I really believe in the business plan situation. I mean, but there's something about a business plan that I think is very important, And that is, I can give a business plan to my CFO, and he can make that look fantastic for the bankers and everything like that. And he can probably persuade half of them that this is really going to happen, But the way I look at a business plan is the fact that you better do a business plan that's really what you think you can really do. I mean, you might be able to make a little more aggressive one, and you tell the banker, hey, this is really aggressive, but you better understand, at least in my thing, it was always like my CFO is like, oh, look, this may not happen. We better discount this by 50% or forget that, or whatever, because the truth matter is, why am I wasting my time if I can't get there? And I guess when we talk a little bit about alternative financing, my biggest thing has always been how not to get, in trouble, and how to make sure that, I was at least exerting my efforts towards something that was going to be worthwhile for me to do it. So business plan, I can't tell you, model after model after model, and none of them are working. I mean, it's just, there's just no solution practically. Well, let's try this, let's try that. Eventually you figure, well, maybe we can do this. And so I guess one of our big things was I kind of made a decision that if we're going to do this, we're going to do it right, okay? And having been a CPA, worked in lots and lots of businesses and things like that, there's so many people that just hope it's going to work out right, But you don't want to fool yourself about that kind of thing. You really got to say, hey, is there really a shot to do this? And I want to really know that this can happen. And so one of the things that was very important to me is that if I wanted to be in business, I wanted to offer a quality product where I could make it above. We set some goals. I wanted to be able to offer quality product. I wanted to be able to get an above average return on that product. And I wanted to be able to couch it as a premium product that people would pay that for. And so we started, from day one with everything's going to be quality. And then where the prayer part came in was the fact of, Lord, just let the cash last long enough until I get enough of these deals going that it'll start happening for me, okay? And so lots of prayer in that regard. But so what we did is we started looking, as I said, we really took a real good look at the stock of our company to say, what do we have? What resources are available? How could we do these things? And I think it's like the gentleman there mentioned, we can't really take a lot of credit because there's a lot of smart people. You have to find the smart people. Art and Skip and a lot of these guys have helped us a lot, and people that are successful. I mean, I wore those people out, trying to figure out. So there's not much original thought. But one of the things we investigated is, have you ever looked into grant financing? Is there any grants? Is there any kind of government deals? Of course there's SBA, factoring. There's all those different types of things you can do. And then some of them come with really stiff covenants where they really tie you down to where you can't even breathe without calling your banker or whatever like that. And, so you got to understand all of that. I do find it, and we are actually trying to work right now a little bit with Wells Fargo. Matter of fact, if you've never really studied Wells Fargo, what a great company to study for the successful company they are. They're really a good read to learn more about their company and the things that they've done and everything. But a lot of times I found too that if I could deal with a bank, sometimes dealing with a community bank was a good thing too, because they're not quite as much up on covenants yet. A lot of times they get the money, and it's not like, oh yeah, well your gross profit has to remain at this, and you can't do this, you can't do that, and whatever like that. So they're a little tougher to borrow from because they don't have the expertise, and you may not be able to get a loan from them. But sometimes if you need a little relief from covenants, you might be able to benefit from doing that. But what we did that was really cool is I figured, well, I really don't have anything to lose, so I just got to try whatever I think I can do, and then I really believe in myself that I can go out and make some things happen. And so we found that in our industry that we were able to deal with the Department of Agriculture because we were considered a rural telephone company. Okay. Well, now, if most of you have been to Indiantown, there isn't enough people in Indiantown to ever pull us out of what our situation was. So we knew we had to go out after additional revenues and find other revenue sources in order to be able to make this thing happen. And somehow we need to get to the big city or whatever was necessary to make things tick. But one of the real gems that really gave us our first ray of hope was that we found out with the Department of Agriculture that they have a special deal for rural telephone companies. And what's really cool about a rural telephone company, which I discovered a lot in our company, is that we can borrow from the Department of Agriculture and during that term it was somewhere, it's all fixed lending for about 4%. We're about 3.8 is our mix right now, is what we have, that they were able to lend to us. And when I invested that money into infrastructure within our service area, the federal government would give us an 11.25% return on everything that I invested in. Okay, as long as it was capital equipment. So it's like arbitrage, you know, that's an opportunity. So we went and we borrowed at 4%. Somehow we convinced the Department of Agriculture that we were worthy, you know, to be able to business plan, $100,000 in cost to be able to make that happen, okay? But, you know, they go through everything, very similar to SBA. I don't think you have to worry about $100,000 in cost necessarily. You might at times. But the Department of Agriculture is very difficult to deal with. But we were able to do that, and so we had a source to get us started. And so we started investing, and I went to a lot of people in our industry, and they said, oh, there's a lot of risk, you know, because federal laws could change and things like that. But I really didn't have any other opportunity, and I really have a lot to lose. So it was a matter of, let's go do it. And so I started borrowing at 4% and getting a return of 11.25%. Even if I didn't put another customer on, I still got the 11.25 on everything that I bought. And so I think one of the things like that is, you know, have you really taken the time to look at all those options? I would imagine that Career Source, you know, Arthur, you know, the Ford Accelerator, I mean, you're really seeking out those things because some of the places where some of us live are rural, and you might be able to go to the Department of Agriculture, you might be able to go to other things, and there may be grants and opportunities that are available to you. So that's one, you know, that are searching and trying to figure out how these things work.
There you go.
Yes.
You guys started off as a CLEC?
We were an ILEC, which is, you know, or an RLEC, which is what AT&T is, and we built a CLEC so that we could compete outside our service area. We had we started doing things because we didn't have much money. We were able to work some deals like with governmental agencies that were building fiber and needed to get in Western Martin County, so we did fiber swaps. So we came up with every kind of thing we could. We always evaluate what are our resources, how could this be valuable to somebody else, and a lot of times other people don't realize that you have something that may be valuable. You got to think that out, and you think about that kind of business, and you say, well, you know, I might have something that's valuable to him right there, and how can I leverage that to get the next step? Because if you want to talk about lending, I mean, we had no chance to lend. I mean, the best part we did from those things probably accrue about an $8 million net operating loss, okay? And so there was no one, we didn't have the right debt to equity ratios, but the one thing we did focus on was cash flow. And so when we started looking at our daily work, it was like, well, let's just put our nose down to the fundamentals. Let's block, let's tackle, and let's run, okay? And don't worry about what's happening. Look at the plan, keep going, try to boost our cash flow, because you can have an awful big loss on your P&L and still be generating positive cash flow. And so I think one of the gentlemen here mentioned about how important cash flow is. You can get people interested in you because you've got positive cash flow. So in our particular case, we were trying to overcome $1.5 million a year in depreciation expense. So here we're losing big money, but we had really big cash. We had good cash flow, you know, to be able to offset that. And so we got a little bit more attention that way. And so that was something that really worked really well for us. A couple other things just about trying to get credit and things like that is you're doing everything you can think of, you know, to build your reputation. You know, consistent growth, or, you know, watching your revenues go up, you know, is very important. You know, looking at things like your cash flow and showing that you have, you know, cash flow that's continually growing in a regular and predictable type manner is important to you. Showing that you're able to hit your budgets and your projections on your business plan in the past. So a lot of times in the business plan you want to reflect your last, see for us, even before we started becoming profitable and really starting to make it happen, you know, we were able to show people, well look, you know, we did X amount before, you know, and we took a bunch of that down to, you know, EBITDA or to, you know, your gross profit or your net or whatever like that. And even though we still had hit profitability, we were able to show boop, boop, boop. So we always wanted to show 3 years prior and to see how we're doing and show our projections. And so that was a really big help with us. And then the other thing I'd like to say is just like things like, there's things that are, I think, and these guys probably know better. I'm not a lender and stuff. I'm a neater, you know, or whatever. But you know, it's doing little things that add up, and they don't start. You know, they didn't start, you know, on day one. And you put a lot of effort in. Sometimes you invest a lot of money, and it doesn't really benefit you right away. But you got to start doing things to, you know, gain the credibility and the things that you need. So, like one of the things that I started doing was just started in our industry. I just started speaking, you know, at national events, and then, you know, maybe first few times to get up and say, well, yeah, I think here's what we ought to do. You know, I mean, my opinion's good as your opinion. I didn't know what I was doing half the time. I think this is what we ought to do. And so, so they would say, you know, first maybe people start laughing at me. Oh, yeah, good luck doing that, you know, and all that kind of thing. And but then all of a sudden they start listening, you know, and they say, oh, that's a pretty good idea. And then you think, okay, that was a good one. Write that down. We're really going to do that, you know. But, you know, doing that kind of thing, we started winning awards, and we got, you know, a lot of credibility. We've won national awards. We've won local awards, you know. And so we spent a lot of time trying to just be looking at what the high-profile events are that exist and getting to those events and just making sure that the right people know that we're there, you know. And then I think on those, the shadow of the doubt, or you know when it comes to the flip of the coin, you know, from the bar or whatever, when they see that, I think you get some flexibility because, man, here's a credible guy, you know. And then the other thing I can't emphasize enough is who's making your pitch. You know, I mean, do they really believe, you know, in what they're pitching? Because, you know, if you can really go and, you know, be an outstanding, you know, pitch person and really, you know, get people to like what you're selling or whatever it is like that, you get the benefit of the doubt a lot of times when you probably shouldn't have it. And so a lot of our alternative financing was a hope and a prayer and just a lot of work and doing the little things that added up, you know, to having opportunities. And that was it. Yeah.
So, out there in the pretty little town of Indiantown,
Right.
you have all this bandwidth.
Yeah.
You got server farms. You got all this cloud.
Yeah.
You know, this is a room full of entrepreneurs. What kind of business could they throw out there and make some money using all of your infrastructure?
Well, I mean, you could do anything. I mean, you know,
Call
yeah.
centers.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, there's just so much. I mean, who'd have thunk all that infrastructure is in downtown Indiana?
Yeah, it's, you know, we've been very fortunate, and that was just one of the things is that, and it brings up to mind, those are things we probably, you know, that we lost a lot of sleep over. You know, we said, this is what really needs to be in place because, heck, I'm competing against Comcast and AT&T. I mean, those guys could squash me like a bug in 2 seconds if that's what they wanted. So we had to look at how can we be unique from those people and do something totally so that we would be survivable no matter what we did. So things like data centers, fiber, you know, we put it all together in one piece, and so they really don't have that like we do. And then we're located on, when I do my PowerPoints, we're located on the Mount Everest of South Florida, in case any of you don't know that. Our data center is 40 feet above sea level, so. So that's part. And then the one other thing, again, re-emphasizing, you know, it's everybody helping you. And then another very painful thing that was very painful to us, but has been maybe the best key to our success, was getting the right people on the bus, you know. And sometimes you got to go pay a real big premium to get the right people because you can't do it all. I mean, when I was trying to do it all, there's no way you can do it all. And you got to have the right people, and sometimes that means you might go without eating for a while, but if you, I promise you, and you always read it in all the books, you know, but it's so hard to do. You got to have the right people on the bus.
And what's the slogan of the company?
Our slogan, you know, how many people here know their business plan? I mean, how many people know what their mission statement is? of the people here. And you guys are, you know, pretty involved in your businesses. So what was that, maybe 5% of the people here know their mission statement. So what do you do when you don't know what to do? How to handle a problem? And so that's one of the things we tried to identify in our business was we wanted to make sure that every one of our employees, if they couldn't get to a manager and they had to make a decision, we wanted to make that decision in accordance with our mission. And I really believe in that kind of thing. A lot of people think, oh, mission statement, put on paper. And the truth matter, in my opinion, most mission statements are nothing but just a nice statement that's on a piece of paper. And how do you inject that into your everyday life? So what we said, we're going to do something that everybody can believe, but we want to communicate what to do, what you're going to do if you can't, you know, if you have to make that decision. So we changed our mission statement to 2 words, noticeably better. And so all of our employees know our mission statement, and let me assure you, they follow it to the T every day. One of the things that brought tears to my eyes, not the lungs, so it always really, you know, makes you feel good when you see somebody maybe at the lowest end of your company that's implementing your mission statement, you know. So we had, like, one of our customer service reps, an old lady came in and her voicemail wasn't working. And of course, everything was fine on our end, and so the lady's manager, the girl's manager was not there. And so she's like, well, what do I do? I mean, this is never going to get fixed. This old lady will never be able to handle this. So she went to her house, fixed it for her, and came back. And then she wrote the email to her manager and said, man, I really hope you don't mind. But she said, this lady came in and did this problem, and she said, I knew that our mission statement was noticeably better. So she said, the only thing I could think to do was to go to her house and fix that and come back. You know, if I was wrong, let me know. And all of our employees know you will never be chastised or you will never get in trouble if you had to make the decision it was noticeably better. And so it's been very
So
powerful.
everybody reads the QBQ book.
Is he good? Is he good?